Hey, welcome back to Out of the Box with Christine, the podcast for conscious entrepreneurs, where I, Christine Blosdale, get to bring to you, the conscious entrepreneur, some master teachers in all realms of life, health, wealth, love, prosperity, abundance, and you name it. If it's about making your life better, we're going to be talking about it on the show. Stay tuned. It's going to be a great episode. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Out of the Box with Christine. I am your host, Christine Blosdale, and today is an exciting day. I'm so glad that you tuned in because my dear, dear friend and a genius, yes, a genius on this planet is joining us today. And we are going to be talking about the importance, why, if you're an entrepreneur or you're an expert in any field, why it's really important for you to write that book. Also, of course, why it's important for you to create a podcast and a YouTube channel and all that. But to talk about the book angle and why it's so important is my dear friend, Susie Pruden. She is the publishing goddess of Itty Bitty Publishing. And we're going to find out a little bit. I want you to share your story, Susie, with our audience about how you got started. But first of all, welcome to Out of the Box.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I am excited to be here. I love hanging out with you, and whether it's on a podcast or a phone call or a Zoom call or a seminar that we're doing together, I just find it fun and exciting. And I also, I'm going to talk about you for a minute. You are one of the neatest people I know, and you have such a vast mind that allows other people like me to feel like our minds are stretching as well. And that's really fun. That is really fun. So thank you for this opportunity. I'm happy to be here.
Well, we do have fun, don't we?
Yes, we do.
We do. Susie and I, we go back. Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, one amazing reason I'm so happy why I met Susie Pruden is because thanks to her, I am a international #1 Amazon best-selling author through her system, the Itty Bitty Publishing system. I wrote, and it's published, it's out there. It's #1, Your Amazing Itty Bitty Podcast book, the top 15 reasons why you need to tap into the power and profits of podcasting. And I've always dreamt about being an author, but I thought it was something that was so unattainable. I've told this story to Susie before. I thought I had to have like a smoking jacket and a typewriter and a pipe, pipe and a hat, and some kind of cap and a quill. And, I just thought it was going to be way too much work. And she made it so easy and guided me, because I knew I needed to write a book, but at the time, I didn't know what the book was going to be about. And you're like, hello, podcasting.
Well, it's a question I ask all of my would-be authors. What's the low-hanging fruit? And for you, it was a simple response. It's podcasting, because that's where your genius explodes. I mean, it's wonderful that all the podcasts that you do and the micro podcasts and teaching other people to do podcasts. I mean, it's brilliant. And I have to tell you, I didn't tell you this before, Christine, I was at a Pinnacle event and I had a whole bunch of the books with me. There was a gentleman sitting next to me and he's going through them. He's looking at them. He's holding them up. He's looking at them. He gets to your book and he stops. Ooh. And he turns to me and he said, "How much is this?" I said, $10. I owe you, I think, $4, Christine. And
all right.
I said, $10. He whipped out a $10 bill and handed it to me. He said, "I've just started a podcast. I need this book."
Oh,
so
that's wonderful. That makes me feel so good.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. When you become an author, and especially a best-selling author, you get to see the reviews. And I am very, knock on wood, I'm very, very grateful that all of the reviews have been 5-star, amazing reviews.
It's a good book.
it is a good book. I'm a
It's a good
damn
book.
good writer. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
you're a
not
good
only a
writer,
good
and
talker, I can write.
the way you write it, the way you wrote it, it's like the information is easily absorbed. Because when you're writing a book on a particular topic like podcasting, it can get awfully ponderous. And because of the itty bitty system, which is literally 15 chapters, 2 pages each, written in numbered sentences and paragraphs and bullet points, it's like we are the highlights. This is how I explain us. Itty bitty books are the new dummies. The difference between dummies and itty bitty, dummies are 350 pages. You have to read with a yellow highlighter. Itty bitty books are the yellow highlights.
Yeah.
And 95% of people in the world right now don't read, and they all need information. So those of us who are trying to give them information, we have to stop giving it to them in the way we might think we want to, and give it to them in the way they will receive it easily,
Boom.
effortlessly, and take that information and use it.
Well, and it's the same thing with podcasting. Our attention span, as you know, our attention span as humans have shrunk to that of a gnat. And so
If that.
you know, and I actually, and I see, I have 2 podcasts. So I have Out of the Box with Christine, and that's a long format because I'm from the radio world. So I like to have long conversations and get into the nitty gritty and really expand on things. And that's my passion, right? But I have another podcast that addresses that attention span, and it's called a micro podcast, and it's literally 5 minutes or less. And
That's a brilliant
it's
idea.
it's great because
Yeah.
people may not have an hour to give you or to sit down and listen. They may not even have half an hour, but you know what? They've got
5
5
minutes.
minutes. And especially in the micro podcast on podcasting, it's all about tips and tricks for beginner podcasters. So each episode is just about a particular subject. So if it's monetizing your podcast or should I go solo? That's a huge question a lot of beginners have is I want to do a podcast, but should I get a co-host? Or my co-host ran off with, didn't want to do it anymore. And so I did a little micro podcast on that subject and the pros and the cons. And so, and by the way, I highly recommend that people do podcasts by themselves, just because you don't have to worry about that person up and leaving. There's great things about a co-host, but I find that it's a little bit easier when you're doing it solo. Anyway, I digress.
What I do is I basically invite different guests. It's like what we're doing right now. I'm your guest.
Yes, you are.
I am. And so I have a group. My authors have a call every Tuesday. And I've recently started inviting guest speakers to come. And it's really turned out wonderful. You were a guest speaker on my author call, and they loved you.
And I got a few bites of interest for coaching as well. And
yes,
this is the thing too, is networking. It's important.
I want to give my authors every opportunity I can, not only to get their books out and recognized and sold, but even more importantly, get them out, recognized, and people contacting them to grow their programs. And that's what Itty Bitty is all about. So funny, itty bitty books make a big difference. That's my meme. Itty bitty books make a big difference. And it really is true. I mean, I've got stories, but you asked me how I got started, and it's really funny.
Yes.
Because I've been in business since 1965. And it's like, whoa, that's a long time.
I was
1
year old. I was 1.
Oh, I have a joke. I have a wonderful joke. I have to tell you this joke because it's a wonderful joke. I got an email the other day from a friend of mine. She has this joke in there, and there's a little boy, and he's looking up at an old woman. And he goes, "How old are you?" And she says, "I'm 80. And he says, "Did you start at 1?" So I'm reading this email and I just burst out laughing, and I just had to tell it. So I apologize, but I don't apologize. I just,
never apologize, Susie.
Never apologize. That's what the guy says. That's what Gibbs says on NCIS, which I'm now hooked on. And I never watched television. I watched television for 20 years, and all of a sudden I watched Netflix, and I'm stuck. So anyway, how I got started.
Yes.
I had a fitness school in New York, and I was very, very, very well known. And my mother was the U.S. nation's um, foremost fitness authority. She started the President's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports, and she was a major, major big deal, and well known. So when I went into fitness in 1965, I asked her, could I use her name, because it's a very famous name, and she said yes. So I have the name Susie Pruden, and I have a fitness school in New York, and I specialize in toddlers. And I had a summer camp for toddlers through, I think our oldest camper was like 13, young kids. And I was at a cocktail, this is a wonderful story. In 1971, I was at a cocktail party in East Hampton, Long Island. I met an editor, Joni Evans, who worked with William Morrow Publishing. And I told her all about this book that I wanted to write on toddler fitness. And she said she's very interested in the book on toddler fitness. And I'm thinking, not really, you're interested in my name. My name will make you money. And it did. But what happened is she said, do you have an outline? And of course I said, yes. And she said, may I pick it up Monday morning on my way back to Manhattan? I said, yes. She was going to drive right by, we had a house on Montauk Highway. And Monday morning, I gave her the outline, which I had written over the weekend. And she took it to New York. They said, yes, they want the book. They called me on that Thursday. I said, great, let me talk to my husband. They offered me $3,000. I got off the phone, called William Morris Agency in New York. I said, hi, this is Susie Pruden. I just sold a book to William Morrow. I need an agent to negotiate the contract. They assigned an agent to me. She negotiated the contract, got me $5,000. And the only problem was I couldn't write, but my husband could. So we did the book together. And this is important because that book led to the next book. See how they run? Led to the next book, Family Fitness, led to the next book. What was the next book? Fit for Life. Led to the next book, which became a New York Times bestseller, Spot Reducing, led to the next book, Pregnancy and Back to Shape. So it all totaled from 72 to 92, I wrote 11 books. And what's important about that is from the books, my career exploded. I got my own television show on NBC. I was the fitness reporter for the Today Show. I had a 7-minute spot on a weekly show on NBC Live called The Prime of Your Life. 7 minutes on television is a long time. And I had a weekly spot live until it was an hour show. When they cut down to a half hour, I had 3.5 minutes. Regularly, every single week. It was really heady. What else happened? I did a stint on Good Morning America, had a monthly show in Boston, and I did 22 city tours. I did 18 22 city tours, either representing books or products. That's why you want a book. It's not about it. It's every single one of you has an expertise. And there are people who need that expertise. And don't you dare say, well, I don't have anything new to say. Absolutely. Just by you saying it, it's new. I'm sure you've heard everything I've said from somebody else, but you're hearing it differently because it's coming from me. I'm done.
Well,
ask me another question, please.
well, no, and this goes, back into what you're doing now with authors, with experts, people that have something that they're passionate about.
Yes.
That they are in their own perspective. You have, so you have me as a best-selling author, right? The Itty Bitty podcast book was, and the timing was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. But then you have people that are experts in other fields that have created itty bitty books, and now they're going on and they're going on and doing speaking series. They're landing other deals. They're creating a business, and this is what we want to drive to the point home. Just like a podcast or a YouTube channel, you can create a business out of it.
A business out of a book.
You can do that with that book. And I'll tell you, since I became a #1 best-selling author, number one, on every, on my website, on LinkedIn, on any social media. That's the first thing I put.
Yes.
That's the
And you
first thing I
lead with
put.
it when you, for example, if you're going to be a guest on someone else's podcast, you are a best-selling author on podcasting. And because of that, you are more likely to get the interview on that podcast than somebody without the book.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And what happens with Itty Bitty, I mean, I'll give you all some examples of what people have done right now, because it's one thing to write a book, but then it's what you really need to look at is how are you going to use your book to market you? That's what I ask every single potential author. What do you want this book to do for you? And it is much, much more than a business card. When people say your book is your business card, no, your book is your business builder. You can take this book, your book, and there's 15 chapters in an itty bitty book. Each chapter, as I said, is 2 pages. So each chapter is a webinar. Each chapter is a seminar. Each chapter is a Zoom call. Each chapter, you can read part of your chapters on a Facebook Live. You can do that again also in LinkedIn. Your book becomes so interesting to your potential audience that they go, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? Where can I get this book? And it's only $6.99 on Amazon. I mean, or $2.99 on Kindle. But example, this book, which is on space. This woman loves space. She wants to own a bus company that takes people out to outer space, a rocket ship bus company. She's all set to have the first taxi to space. Now, what she did with this book was she took it to the Boys and Girls Club of America. She said, your kids need to learn about space, and my book will teach them about it, and I will teach them about it. They said yes, and they are negotiating right now to get her to buy the book for the kids. And when you hear the number of kids, you go, oh, that's a good sale. So she's speaking for the Boys and Girls Club of America. There are 4 million kids in the Boys and Girls Club of America. That's a lot of books. That's a lot of books. And so it's a little book that makes a big difference. This woman wrote a book on cannabis. She didn't know she was going to write the book on cannabis. I asked her, of all the things that she did, what's the low hanging fruit? She said, I don't know. I said, it's pot. Why don't you write the book, Your Amazing Itty Bitty Marijuana Book, 15 Ways to Use Cannabis for Healing? She said, how did you do that? I said, that's what I do. And you're going to write the book, 15 Ways to Talk to Your Kids About Cannabis, 15 Ways to Use Edibles Correctly. Create a certification program for people who want to teach people how to use cannabis correctly, which she did. And she said, I want to do Mary Jane parties. I said, all your cannabis coaches can do the Mary Jane parties. And so now she has a coaching program. This woman got a $25,000 grant to do what she was giving away for free. She worked in a shelter 1 day a week doing hypnosis. She wrote for no charge, it was her give back. And she wrote this book and got a $25,000 grant. This gentleman, I forgot about this story. And then I saw myself I was watching one of my videos that I had presented at Craig's event. And I talked about the story. I said, oh, I forgot about that. He wrote a book on safety. He ran the safety program for the Apple building in San Francisco, largest building in the world, a mile long. And he wrote this book, taking all the OSHA manuals and putting them into itty bitty books so the construction people could carry them easily, maintain safety easily. It was translated into Chinese. He was invited to China to revamp their safety protocol and to lower pollution in China. And this gentleman, I mean, so here's the piece. What do you do? What do you want to do? And how can your book serve you to get there? It's not about book sales. It's about positioning as an expert so that you can get on podcasts, get on television, get on radio, get in newspapers. This gentleman grew his business from $100,000 to $750,000 in 2.5 years. And he was invited to Australia 8 times because of this book. And this woman, this is a funny story. This is a book on QuickBooks. She was at the QuickBooks conference, national conference, when this book came out. She didn't have her copies yet, but she had a bookmark. and she's talking to this gentleman in the elevator, telling him all about it. She was so excited, all about her book. And he said, "So what do you need?" She said, "I need to talk to the person who books your speakers." And he said, "You're talking to him." And now she speaks for good books. So what is it that you do? Where do you want to go with it? What do you want? And look at the big picture, because it's huge.
And I'll say, as someone who, well, I was a radio host and producer for almost 20 years, and Susie knows this. I would get lots and lots of people, lots of publicists also would be sending me queries, but a lot of people would be wanting to be on the radio and, to get interviewed. And it would come down to, if someone had a book, and especially if it was a best-selling book, that's what got my attention. It also gave me something to prepare for. So I had like my own sort of set of notes and things that I could bring up in an interview to make it interesting as well. And so if it was two people with the about same background, same skill set, but one of them has a book, I'm going for the person with a book. That's where I'm going, because it shows that someone is an expert. It creates that expertise. And it's the same thing, that with podcasting and creating a YouTube channel, is that you need to get out there and you need to use these tools, your book, your podcast, as a business builder. What you were saying too, with each chapter of like an itty bitty book, each chapter is a webinar. And so I want people that are watching this or listening to this to think about creating that podcast show. It's the same idea, where
Yes.
each episode is a potential module for your training course that you can
And each
that you can sell.
podcast, and each podcast can be a chapter.
Exactly.
So you've got your book and your podcast, and they dovetail together. Then you create programs under each podcast and chapter, and all of a sudden you have this amazing
I have
family of
I
a
have
business.
I have two podcast clients that I coach, and that are, I mean, I have more, but I have two that are, they're creating their podcast and they're using each episode as a chapter in a book. One client has so many podcast episodes done and so many chapters done that she's working on volume 2 of her.
Wow.
She's working on another book, on a second book, same subject matter. But it's volume 2, because she's like, I got too many. I've got so many. So that's what we want to do, is we want to encourage people to think outside the box a little bit, think out of the box, and realize that there are tools. And right now, with the economy and how things have been for people have been laid off. A lot of folks have lost their job or have been become underemployed. And now is the time to really, if you're thinking about starting your own business, now is the time to do it. It is so vitally important. And Susie and I actually have something very special to offer our wonderful listeners and viewers of Out of the Box. And this is actually extremely valuable, but we're going to make it affordable for everyone. And in addition to spending time with us, we have a very, very unique package that we're going to be offering. We're going to be live in May doing something very special. For 3 hours, we're live with our wonderful listeners. And why don't you tell them a little bit about what we're going to be doing? It's for Americans, it's May 15th at 3 p.m. Pacific time or 6 p.m. East Coast time. And for Aussies, because I've got a lot of listeners from Australia. Actually, the show is doing really well in Australia.
Good.
For Australians, it's Sunday, May 16th at 8 a.m. But tell them a little bit about what we're going to be doing on that date.
Well, we want you to understand not only the power of podcasting and publishing, but have the understanding and the knowing that, yes, this is a good idea. So what we do is we pull the curtain back on, okay, what do you have to do to write a book? And we tell you what you have to do. We go, you have to start here, and then you have to do this. then you have to do this, and I'm not going to tell you right this moment. Then you have to do this. So we lay it out for you so that you come away from our event having the basic knowledge of what you have to do to write a book. At the same time, the basic knowledge of what you have to do a podcast. You could go from that seminar, that workshop, and write your book and do your podcast. You probably don't want to because you probably ought to have a little more schooling, but you could do it. I mean, I started writing in the 70s, well, my ex-husband and we didn't know anything, and we figured it out. So rather than having you have to figure it out, we're going to give you the nuts and bolts. We're going to give you more examples of what you can do. We're going to answer your questions. We're going to pose situations, and we're all going to figure them out so that you come away from that day understanding the ABCs of writing and podcasting.
And it's going to be extremely interactive, which is something that's very rare these days. What I find it when I go to webinars or seminars, there'll be somebody speaking and you just sitting there listening. You can be in your pajamas, you can be, walking around naked, right? On the Zoom calls, and you're just sitting there and you're listening. Okay. This is going to be actually very interactive. We want you to be there. We want you to say, hey, this is what I do. This is what I'm really good at. And it can be anything. It can be if you're a stay-at-home mom and you can feed a family of 4 for $20 a night. Oh my God, that's a book. That's a podcast. That's a great podcast.
Christine, I had a woman that I was talking to recently, and I said, well, what do you do? And it was funny. She said, I'm just a housewife. I said, don't ever just that again. Do you know how important that job is? She was like, no. I said, do you realize what you're doing? You're helping form the next generation. You're their main guide. That's massively important. And so in the hour that we were on the phone, totally changed her mind about what she did. I said, your job is massively important. And she's now putting together a book on.
And so many people need that information. And
I sure needed it. I didn't know what to do.
Exactly.
I didn't know how to raise a kid.
Well,
there's no instructions.
And what I love about what Susie does and what I do as well with people that I talk to is that we have this wonderful ability to see outside of the box and to see from a perspective that most people can't. And especially if they're stressed out or worried about finances and things like that, sometimes you need somebody else who can see that all of the businesses that you have inside of you, all of these things that people would pay you for, they'll pay you for your time, but you're stuck and you can't see it. So that's what Susie and that's what one of our expertise is. And on that day, again, it's Saturday, May 15th for Americans. For Australians, it's Sunday, May 16th. But on that day, we're going to be doing a 3-hour interactive workshop, and it's called Write Your Book and Create Your Podcast. And I'm going to go over not just podcasting, how to create your podcast as a business builder, but also YouTube, because as Susie knows, everyone gets their information now. They're not going to a library. They're not seeking it even on, on television or radio. They're going to YouTube. And it does not matter what it is you're an expert in. If you can get your podcast on YouTube, you're going to reach a huge audience that you couldn't in any other way. And if you're an author of a best-selling book, what better place than to tell people about your book than on YouTube? So we're going to be covering all of that in this 3-hour interactive webinar on Zoom. So just like this, but it's going to be you talking to us talking to you. And in addition to that, because this is a really wonderful opportunity, it's a rare opportunity that we get to meet with people, and I get to meet with listeners to the podcast as well. But we're also throwing in some amazing little bonuses. And one of the bonuses is one of my favorite things that Susie does. Susie is a master hypnotherapist of many, 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 many years. And included in this are some very important MP3s, audio MP3s that people can play at night before they go to sleep or in the morning when they wake up. But tell the folks about these.
So the MP3s, there's 4 on writing a bestseller and 4 on creating wealth. And Christine is right. All you do is just sit back and listen, not in your car, please. And they will. Greg Reed, who wrote 3 Feet from Gold, told me that after listening to my processes on creating and growing your wealth, his income increased 3 times in 1 month. And he was making a lot of money before the increase. So he was making massive money after that. And the other thing that, and also, besides the 8 hypnosis processes, you have the opportunity to have a one-on-one with me. And really, let me tell you, if you even have a book. I talked to a woman today. She had 2 book ideas, and the first book idea, I said no, that's not, doesn't have any legs. And the second book idea did. And the second book idea is a really good idea. So I'm excited that she's going to be an itty-bitty author. So that's what my offer to you is, just for showing up that day.
So they're going to get the MP3 processes, which is really important because, again, you're talking to the subconscious mind, which is running the show. Consciously, you might be saying, yes, of course, I want success and abundance, and I want to have a best-selling book. But the conscious mind, the subconscious mind is actually, that's where all those sabotages
It's running
are.
the show.
It's running the show. So if you were little and your parents said you will amount to nothing, or, you saw your parents fighting over money, you're going to have issues with abundance and thinking that you're worthy of that. And so that's how powerful these are. So you're going to get 3 hours with us live, okay, in the interactive workshop on writing your book and creating your podcast. So we're going to be giving you all this wealth of information, the do's and the don'ts, the things to stay away from to save you money and time and energy. But also you're going to get the hypnosis programs. You're also going to get some other goodies. You're going to get an ebook from Suzy on how to write an itty bitty book. You're going to get that given to you. You're going to get my So You Want Your Own Podcast show. You're going to get that ebook. And as she said, you're going to get a one-on-one session, which can be scheduled after this workshop. You're going to get a one-on-one session with Susie Pruden. And you're going to get, in addition, you're going to get a one-on-one session with me as well. And we can talk about your individual podcast show, your individual book with Suzy, your individual podcast show with me. And we are extremely busy, which is a good sign, but we're also, our time is very valuable. So this is a huge gift. And I know that the entire value of this entire package, it also has a video that comes with it, a 4-hour training video. This whole package is worth thousands of dollars, but we're making it available, and it's very limited because we don't want to have a lot of people. We want to have just a few people that we can work with. We're offering it for $97. Which is crazy.
Ridiculous price. Ridiculous price.
I don't sell anything
We've
for
never done this for
$97, let alone my
$97.
time. I know. So I'm gonna throw out, we'll make sure that we have a link in the show notes. You want to definitely click on it and get a seat, reserve your spot because they're limited. But if you want to as well, it's I shortened the link so people can get to it. It's bit.ly. It's a bit.ly link. So it's bit.ly/May Reinvention. The website so that you can get to it is it's bit.ly. It's a bit.ly/May Reinvention. And Suzy, talk a little bit about why it's important to reinvent yourself right now.
Oh, wow. To reinvent yourself. If you don't reinvent yourself right now and you are still the same person you were a year ago before COVID, you're operating in an old mindset and it needs to pivot. It needs to come out and say, okay, the world is different and it's not going back. It's absolutely not going back. And so as an expert in whatever it is that you do, you have to look at how can I change what I've done in the past to be the person I need to be in this current present going forward, because our world has changed completely. And a lot of people are thinking, well, I'll just go back doing what I used to do. What you used to do doesn't exist. And as you look at where you are today, where you were, and look at what you have to do to maneuver this world. I'm doing things today that I never did before, and it's become my reality. So there is a new reality, which is again going to change and again going to change. We have to look at the world differently. We have to look at ourselves differently and say, okay, so the real question is, who do I want to be? Because you can be anybody you want to be. Who do you want to be?
And
And
also,
I like the person that I am becoming, and I listen to myself as I'm talking to other people about what it is that I do and how I can help. And I'm going, yeah, that's pretty good. That wasn't me a year ago. And I watch how I do business. That wasn't me a year ago. So what kind of a difference can you make in the world? And what kind of a difference can the world make for you? And it's really asking those two questions. Who do I want to be? What do I want to receive? And who do I want to be? What do I want to give?
yes.
And through those, we're in a major transformational time on this planet, the entire planet.
And that's why it's so important right now to also take a look at what's happening in our lives. And you can either look at it from a perspective, recently, not getting into details, but recently I got thrown a curveball. And when I get thrown a curveball, I now take it as an opportunity, like, oh my goodness, it's opening me up to be able to do things that I wasn't able to do before. Instead of saying, woe is me, that sucks, why did that happen to me? It's thank you to the universe. Thank you. And we want to share that with you. And this is a really great opportunity. So I'm inviting everyone to click the link. It's going to be included in the show notes. Secure your spot because these are extremely limited. It's $97 for 3 live hours with Susie and myself. Saturday, May 15th for Americans, Sunday, May 16th for Australians. And it's not just those 3 hours. Remember, you're going to get a one-on-one private personal consultation session with Susie and one with me. And that is so extremely valuable because we want to hear what you're doing and how we can help you create a different future. And that to me is the best feeling in the world. And that's the best job in the world, really. So
I agree.
if you want to write your book, your best-selling book, you need to be there. If you want to create a podcast show or YouTube channel, you need to be there. And if you don't want to do either one of them, but you want to really improve your life and how you look at the world and how you look at things that happen, please make sure that you show up. It's the bit.ly link, bit.ly/May Reinvention. It's your opportunity. And there's a reason why you stumbled across the show as well. Don't you think, Susie?
Absolutely. There are no accidents. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of you on the 15th.
All right, Susie, I know that you are super busy and you have another client to get to. So if you want to throw out your website so people can learn a little bit more about Itty Bitty, go ahead.
ittybittypublishing.com. So that's www.ittybittypublishing.com.
All right. And if you want to find out more about me, you can go to christineblosdale.com. All those links will be associated in the show notes so you can check them out. And please do join us in May. I think we're going to have such a great time. And we always have so much fun. That's the other thing. They're not boring, long 3-hour.
No, they are fun.
They are. And I love you, Susie Pruden. Thank you so much.
Love you too, Christine Blosdale.
Thank you so very much. And thank you, wonderful listeners and viewers. Remember to subscribe to the show however you may. And stay tuned for more incredible podcasts coming up. It's going to be on Out of the Box with Christine. You can go to outoftheboxwithchristine.com if you want to find out more. And until next time, as I always say, remember to think outside that damn box. Bye for now.
Bye for now.